There, we're now
Yeah,
recording.
it's recording. Yeah.
So for those of you not here and watching this on YouTube, welcome. I've just introduced Fabio and about to show some books from LYSA, and then I'll hand over the floor to my friend and colleague. Um, just LYSA has a variety of series. This is a series of books focused a lot on the classical tradition. This book in particular is just outstanding. Another series has focused on these edited books, usually, but not exclusively, in honor of a really great scholar or a collection of essays by a great scholar. The volume of Concetta Bianca's essays I thought was just really, really nice. And then an entire series of English and Latin editions with English translations. The quality, both of the book itself and the work, is just it's really, really inspiring. So that's all I have to say. Fabio, please.
Thank you very much, Brian. First of all, I'm really honored to be here, and thanks for giving me the opportunity, indeed, to talk about our enterprise. Well, as a scholar, you have already said enough. I've been publishing basically on Rome and antiquarian studies. So I'm the critical editor, indeed, of the Roma Instaurata, but I've also published in 2023 for the Studi e Testi of the Vatican Library, my critical edition of a work by Maffeo Veggio, which is basically focused on the Vatican Church. It's a description, but in fact, it's far more than just a description of the Vatican Church. It is a work of historiography. I don't see you anymore, Brian, but perhaps I can share my PowerPoint. Yes. And well, I would like to not to be too commercial this evening, but just to talk here about what happened 5 years ago when Jeroen de Keyser and I decided to start up this venture. Jeroen and I have been colleagues for more than 10 years, I would say. So we knew each other when we were both PhD scholars, and we had the opportunity to work together for quite a long time. And I've always felt, and I think that I can speak also for Jeroen, a quite strong connection. So I find that Jeroen and I are quite complementary in our way to pursue research, in our way to work on the editing of articles, which we have done in the 4 years we've collaborated at Umanistica Lovaniensia, where we were both based in Leuven. And at certain moments, we had the idea, why don't we try to transform our collaboration in something else? And we did it by funding LYSA, because we felt as scholars that we needed something more in terms of attention for our works as writers, as historians, as philologists. And I tried to explain a little bit better what I want to say. We have published both books, and we felt sometimes to be left a bit alone by the editors. We didn't like very much the path that the editing world, the publishing world, was taking in just publishing, without really taking care of the scholar as a colleague, first of all, not only as a client. And that's something that we really have taken as an idea, not only from our needs, but also from the history of the Renaissance, which we love very much. It's not a case if one of the books of the Gray series that you showed, Brian, so the Links series, about which I will try to say something later. well, it's not a case if one of those books is completely dedicated to Henri Estienne, one of the most important French publishers of the Renaissance. Was exactly those two things together. At the one hand, a publisher, also then involved with all the commercial aspect of running a publishing venture, with all the practical things which are involved, of course, in working in the private sector, I would say. But he was also a philologist, and he had a particular attention and desire, to do the work in a certain way. And this is I would say, the motor that drives Jeroen and I in this LYSA publishers thing. And we are now 5 years busy, and we have started 3 different series. Well, this is also quite important indeed. We are based in Ghent, which is a very beautiful city anyway. So our office is here, and that gives us also the opportunity, to go out, to have sometimes an ice cream, and to drink a beer together, just to decompress from a heavy work day at the desk of our books. But it's also a city with quite an history, in the Renaissance, of course. And LYSA, the name of our publishing house, comes from the Leie, which is the Dutch name of the river which goes across the city. And if you have ever read The Three Musketeers by Dumas, well, at the end of the book, when they try to reach from the Artois, when the musketeers try to reach Paris, to save the monarchy, well, they just follow the course of the LYSA, of the Leie. So we really liked very much this idea, to connect our publishing house also physically by means of this metaphor with the city of Ghent, where the publishing house was born. And this is Ghent. Well, it's really a visit, worth a visit. The 3 series, you have already introduced them briefly, Brian. The co-libri, the idea is indeed to put books together, co-libri, which also plays with the ambiguity with the bird. And that's why it is the series which we have completely dedicated to collections of essays, of studies, which can be collection of essays as a resume of a whole career of a scholar, like in the case of Carla Maria, of Concetta Bianca that you've shown, but also in the case of the first book by Janine de Landseer, and of one of the last books, which I will introduce you later. But can also be just, a Festschrift meant to celebrate the career of someone who's going retired, like it is in the case of the last book that you will see here, Virtute Virtutus, in honor of Enrico Valdo Maltese. And we have tried indeed to separate this concept of books, the collections, with the Neo-Latin texts and the monographs. The Neo-Latin texts are represented by links, and you see that the animal metaphor comes back. It's LYSA Neo-Latin texts. And we try indeed to put out texts which haven't been published, or at least not yet in a modern critical edition. They are all provided with a translation in English, a short introduction, and footnotes. The idea is to provide our readers with a book which is not only a beautiful thing to have in hands, and this is also something that we really I really want to stress. So we are both, Jeroen and I, bibliophiles. As you can see behind me, we have also books and a passion to display them, and we want our books to be real beautiful things, and also technological things, because this is something that we forget all the time, but books are one of the most technological things that a human being has ever created. So a book can fall and it's still useful for the next 100 of years. A book can be wet, but you can always dry it out. It's a very interesting thing to have, and we want it to be useful to you to be used. We want that when you open it, it stays open. That as a scholar, when we are taking notes, it doesn't collapse in. And so we really need it to be at the surface of our aesthetical parameters, but also of our desk when we concretely make research. But at the same time, the links, the LYSA Neo-Latin texts don't want to be, don't want to exceed in philological standards. So we want them to be, of course, philological correct. They are all critical editions which are based on very strict philological standards. But we don't also want to, we want that the text remains the protagonist, of the book, and is not suffocated by the footnotes, by the descriptions of the manuscripts. We try to keep a balance between all the elements in a way that is more than sufficient for a researcher to use them as a research tools, but we also want that the text remains the most important thing of the book. And then we have Sempervirens, which is our collection of texts devoted to the classical heritage and its transformation, like the subtitle says. That's why we have chosen for Sempervirens, evergreen. And here we want to publish basically monographs, or also critical edition, which don't match the required characteristics of the Links series. So if it's needed, to put out a critical edition which needs wider critical apparatus, or a much more important introduction, then we tend to publish it in Sempervirens. And Sempervirens is a series I coordinate with Andrea Severi, who's a professor of Italian literature at the University of Bologna. And well, here I would like to tell an anecdote. Andrea and I know each other from PhD years, because we were both students in Florence within the same PhD program. And this is something that we really find important in our publishing venture, that we are not only at the service of the scholars who want to publish with us, but most of the times we are friends of those scholars. So we have shared for a long time the same interests, the same network, and this makes all the things much easier. in terms of communications, in terms of policy, and how we want to apply our policy, because we know that we are somehow synchronized on the same level. And that's something that I believe to be unique in our publishing world. And I like it very much. I think that it's an important part of our identity, the fact that Jeroen and my networks, they really contribute, to let grow the publishing house in a very democratic way, I would say. And last but not least, I made a slide just for the last two books that we have published for Colibri. The first one, In Confinio Duorum Populorum, is a collection of studies on Petrarch by Carla Maria Monti, which is a quite interesting book because it doesn't only tackle the Latin Petrarch, but also the Petrarch in Volgare, the Petrarch of the Canzoniere, and the Petrarch of the Trionfi, but in a way which I would define holistic, So Carla Maria Monti has always tried to study Petrarch through the lens of Petrarch as a classical scholar, but also Petrarch as a patristic scholar, which is far less known and studied. And the book which came out, also thanks to the collaboration of the people who put it together, is in fact almost a monograph. Even if it is a painstaking of articles produced all over the years in a career which started perhaps at the beginning of the 80s up to now, it has such a unity, such a coherence, which really looks like a monograph. And well, if any of you is interested on Petrarch, that you might also be interested on this book. And the second one on the right side, L'amore, le armi, le stelle, is a collection of studies on Basilio da Parma, one of the most important humanists of the Romagna of the 15th century, but perhaps not as known as other humanists at this time. He has been at the center of many investigations in the last years because of a huge project coordinated by the Boltzmann Institute in Innsbruck, in Austria. And they asked us, indeed, whether we wanted to publish the results of part of the results of this research, which resulted, indeed, in this book by Anna Gabriella Chisena, Federica Rossetti, and Simon Smets. And what I really like of this book is that the studies which are here published are not only philological studies, but they really try to combine philology, art history, history, gravitating around Basilio da Parma, but in fact telling about the culture of Romagna and Rimini in particular during the 15th century. And as far as I know, there is nothing right now which is so complete, also in terms of erudition on Rimini in the 15th century, like this book. So this is also definitely something I would like to suggest to you. More information you can find on our website. It's quite easy to find, lisapublishers.be. And well, the floor is yours. If you have any question, I would be really happy to answer them. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Fabio. I'll stop the recording now, as is custom for our group, and then we'll have a discussion.